I love it. Representative Jeffries left his schedule up here. How is everybody? Was that UFT in the back? All right, I am the last speaker of the morning. And but I want to say thank you to JS again. And I want to say to all of you, it is so great to see you all here. You can clap for yourselves. It is, you know, you could be anywhere with loved ones, on vacation, doing the vital work you do, but you are here doing the work of the union. Thank you so, so much. And before I welcome you, as so many others this morning have done, has this morning been great or what? Did you like that roll call? Oh my God, up here I can't really hear you. Maybe it's my hearing is going. Did you like that roll call? So I just really want to say, and you're going to hear a lot of this later in my speech, Liz Schuler, the president of the AFL-CIO, is here. I just want her to wave because the AFL-CIO is really important in our lives. And there are other labor leaders here that you're going to hear from later on in the week. But I also want to say that the AFT family that I have served with these days, Fed Ingram and Evelyn De Jesus, they did an amazing job today. Thank you, Fed and Evelyn. And I know that Loretta Johnson, Loretta and I came in the same day in July of 2008. I know that Loretta is here somewhere. I can't see her. There she is. So, you know, we all have our union family, and we all have our personal family. And I love that Dr. Debbie Emmentaler, who I worked with in New York for so long, is sitting next to my wife, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum. Thank you, Sharon. So everybody, welcome to Washington, D.C. And while you missed the UFC cage fight on the White House lawn, it's not too late to check out the tire marks in the reflecting pool. We plan our conventions years in advance, and when we decided to hold this convention in our nation's capital to coincide with the celebration of America's founding 250 years ago, who would have thought that the grievances that led to the American Revolution would be so relevant and relatable today? Or that America would have a new kind of aristocracy based on mind-blowing wealth. I love that. In the United States, there are now 1,000 billionaires and the world's first trillionaire. At a time when nearly half of American households, 46%, don't earn enough to make ends meet. This wealth imbalance, the top 1% having as much wealth as the entire bottom 90% of Americans combined, has led to a power imbalance that affects the lives of everyone in the country. These oligarchs dictate policy. They have the power to undo social progress, to sway financial markets, to monopolize the media, to buy elections, and undermine democracy. In an earlier period of extreme wealth inequality, the country elected FDR, and his New Deal programs lifted millions of Americans out of poverty. This time, the country elected Donald Trump. And well, remember that warning about the barbarians at the gate? Well, the barbarians aren't at the gate, they are inside, including at the highest levels of government. The president and his cronies are abusing government powers to punish political opponents. Every day, you saw Reverend Warnock today talk about this. The president tomorrow night may be trying to say that Reverend Warnock and Senator Ossoff should not be senators from the state of Georgia. Every day, they find new ways to attack voting, presumably to entrench themselves. And their war on working-class Americans includes stripping collective bargaining rights from 1 million federal workers, including members of our union, in the biggest act of union busting in United States history. All while engaging in the most blatant corruption in modern American history to enrich themselves. The attacks on unions, on working people, on public education, on higher education, on the public good, on democracy. It didn't start with Donald Trump. It's been decades in the making, reverting back to the 1971 Lewis Powell memo that successfully plotted corporate dominance in American politics. And the Supreme Court's 2010 Citizens United decision that fueled this massive surge of dark money in elections, now supercharged by the court's ruling last month that blew up whatever campaign finance limits were left. We got somebody with a great lung right up here. And then there was the 2018 Janus decision that anti-union forces hoped would drive a stake through the heart of public sector unions. And remember Project 2025? I remember talking about that in Houston. Project 2025 became the playbook to enact this extremist agenda. And this year's Calais decision not only gutted what remained of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, but did so in time to impact the 2026 elections. And then there's the bare-knuckled crusade to destroy public education and higher education. Just look at Christopher Rufo's tweets or his unabashed declaration years ago, and I quote, "To get to universal school choice, you really need to operate from a premise of universal public school distrust." And I haven't even gotten to big tech and AI. Yes, the other side has enormous power, but this is what they don't have: the power of the people. That is not a mere slogan. It is the potential to work together, to bargain together, to protest together, to vote together, to act together, to bring about change. real, lasting, life-improving change. That is the power and potential of our movement and of the AFT. Our union stands at the intersection of the ways that regular people gain and exercise power in our democracy, through public education, through unions and voting. The skills and knowledge people secure through public and higher education expand opportunity. That's power. Union contracts improve economic well-being. That's power. Elections, voting for people who answer to their constituents, not wealthy donors. That's power. Not just for ourselves, but for our students, our patients, and our communities, to build what Martin Luther King Jr. called the beloved community, an America where hate has no home. Where the trans nurse, the Palestinian teacher, the Jewish student, and every person, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, gender, or place of origin, feel welcome, safe, and valued. We used our power for good against chaos, cruelty, and corruption. We care, we fight, and we show up for a better life for all. Oh, and one more thing. We get shit done. My apologies to the children. We're a fighting union. To quote the president of Texas AFT, Zeph Capo, our members, yes, Texas is in the House, our members will forgive us if we fight and lose, but they'll never forgive us if we don't even fight. And look at what we have fought for and won in these last 2 years, despite constant challenges. You've heard a lot about this already, but through AFT's student debt clinics and our other activism, we have helped more than 1 million borrowers, many our members, get $78 billion in student debt forgiven. It is life-changing. People can start a family, buy a home, save for retirement. The AFT has filed more than 25 lawsuits against the illegal actions of the Trump administration. And to the New Yorkers who are betting on the length of the speech, if I talked about all of them, I would blow everyone's bet on the length of the speech, so here are just a few. The Trump administration tried to stop any school, pre-K through college, from doing anything that could be construed as advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion, essentially erasing 60 years of civil rights law. And exactly right. And they sought to condition all federal funding for schools on compliance with this illegal dictate. We sued and we won. Please remember that. We challenged the administration's policies to detain and deport non-citizen students and faculty for participating in protected political speech. Again, we won. Thank you. We sued to stop the administration from stripping federal funding from universities and to stop its efforts to control curriculum, hiring, and speech. And you guessed it, we won. And then there are the collective bargaining victories, like for better wages, from Boston to Kansas City, from Chicago to LA, and so many more. That's the union difference. Union workers' wages are 11% higher than non-union workers. And unionized teachers earn 24% more in states with collective bargaining, and education support personnel earn 13% more. And as we speak, the City Council in New York City is voting to provide every UFT represented paraprofessional a $10,000 respect check that the union has relentlessly fought for. Life is better with a union. It goes beyond wages. Take the United Educators of San Francisco, whose successful strike this year led to winning premium free health care, not only for their members, but for their families. And paid parental leave. Kudos to our affiliates in Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Fairfax County, New York City, and Oregon for making great strides to help families thrive. And safe staffing. Okay, where is HPAE? Good. I want everybody else to hear me say this. In New Jersey, our healthcare union, HPAE, has negotiated not one, not two, but 14 contracts in a row with enforceable safe staffing provisions. And now, one of our newest affiliates, Hawaii Nurses and Healthcare Professionals, have created a broad coalition to do the same. And we have a sacrosanct commitment to retirement security. The Rhode Islanders, those in Illinois, California, Texas, you know what I'm about to talk about. After a generation-long battle, we won passage of the Social Security Fairness Act that gave millions of public workers the full benefits they earned but had been denied. And of course, I got to go back to New York. Our New York unions have made great progress this year to fix Tier 6. Now, younger workers who had inferior pensions can retire in their late 50s. And AFT Massachusetts, AFT Pennsylvania, and our Alaska affiliates are making progress as well. And there's also what we have fended off. The Philadelphia Federation of Teachers reached an agreement to stop the cuts of 340 school-based positions for the coming year. In Utah, a labor coalition, including AFT Utah, gathered more than 250,000 signatures and got the legislature to repeal a ban on public sector bargaining. AFT New Hampshire has a mean game of whack-a-mole, defeating right-to-work, school vouchers, and campus carry legislation, and successfully challenging a law that restricted teachers' rights to teach and students' access to honest history. And then, here comes downstate. In New York, our unions, UUP and PEF, and a broad community coalition successfully fought to keep SUNY Downstate Hospital open after years of threatened closure. And they secured $1.1 billion to upgrade and expand the facility and services. These are fights we'll have to keep waging. The Republicans' big, ugly bill cuts $1 trillion from Medicaid, makes the largest cuts to nutrition assistance in history, triples the cost of student debt for tens of millions of Americans, and threatens hundreds of rural hospitals with closure. And why? To give a $1 trillion new tax cut to the richest 1%. States and local budgets are already seeing the strain, and we're going to have to keep fighting school district by school district, hospital by hospital. And then there is AI, the most seismic industrial revolution of our time. From UUP in New York to the University Professionals of Illinois, we've won strong contract language so AI won't be used to take our jobs, replace our professional judgment, or evaluate or discipline us. And density matters. You just heard JS from ONA in Oregon. Because like NYSET in education, Oregon's density in healthcare is making a difference. OFNHP secured the largest raises in their history, nearly 35% over 4 years for RNs. And remember that resolution last convention about aligning contracts. OFNHP and HNHP in Hawaii have aligned all their contract expiration dates for the next Kaiser battle. And then there is protecting our students, our patients, and our neighbors from brutal immigration tactics like the recent fatal shootings by ICE agents in Texas and in Maine of 2 men who should be alive today. Healthcare locals in Oregon won legislation to protect healthcare facilities from immigration enforcement. And educators across the country have fought for their students' release from ICE detention centers. Just sit with educators in the Twin Cities, in Chicago, in Detroit, hearing those stories. And speaking of Minnesota, our twin, you knew I was going here. Our Twin Cities union family peacefully and courageously stood up to the occupation and harsh immigration enforcement that led to the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and terrified thousands of immigrant families. And we were there with mutual aid, with food, with diapers, with rent money, with books, with toys, and safe passage for children to and from school. The AFT is always at the ready to help, like our states and locals in crisis program. And right now, we are helping our members in Florida who are in the bullseye of anti-union attacks intended to wipe them out. So I want the Floridians to hear me clear, and I want the rest of you to make this commitment with me. We are with you, Florida, every step of the way. And we're investing in our affiliates through our MOVE grants, which affiliates are using as fuel to engage members, connect with community, and strengthen their power. So, my friends, this is what the power of the people look like: caring, fighting, showing up, and getting shit done. You know, older and asthmatic makes me need to drink water more, but you all should be hydrating as well. You promise me? We need you battle ready. The administration is waging a war on knowledge, from school voucher schemes to erasing rather than facing history, to selling the Department of Education off for parts, to its all-out assault on higher education. And here, too, we're not just fighting back, but we're putting forward big ideas. AFT and AAUP have launched a national higher education campaign. We're fighting to keep vital research funded and against attacks on academic freedom. We won collective bargaining rights for higher education employees in Maryland and are making strides towards free college in Connecticut and Pennsylvania. And in April, AFT and AAUP released our blueprint for strengthening and transforming higher education, and we launched it in Texas because that is ground zero in the attacks on critical thinking. Through AFT's Healthcare Code Red campaign, we're working to secure safe staffing limits, enforceable workplace violence standards, and contracts that help recruit and retain frontline caregivers, which is good for patients and for healthcare workers. And on AI, we have a multifaceted plan, from limiting screens and child-facing AI for young students to a tech tax to hold tech companies accountable for the massive disruptions their products are creating, to contractual protections like I just talked about, and our National Academy for AI Instruction to help educators master AI so AI does not master us. AI is not going away. So we're going to do everything in our power to fight for the safeguards that matter to our members, our families, and our communities. And of course, we're giving out books. 11 million and counting to children and families through our Reading Opens the World program. All this is why the AFT is bigger, badder, and more big-hearted than ever. The AFT is the fastest-growing union in the AFL-CIO. Since our last convention, we have organized 179 more units with close to 60,000 new members in these new locals. And new affiliations have deepened our work in states like Hawaii, Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, and many existing locals have grown as well. So I am thrilled to announce that despite everything that's been thrown at us, we have hit a historic milestone. We proudly represent more members than ever before. Today, the AFT is 1,875,209 members strong. I love those pom-poms. People see the value of belonging. They see that we're a fighting union and that we get shit done. It's amazing, but you're amazing. And we're not going to let up. Too few people have the benefit of a union. Half of all non-union workers want to join a union, but only 1 in 10 workers in the U.S. belong to a union. Americans are 14 times more likely to have an Amazon Prime membership than to be a member of a labor union. In the mid-20th century, when 1 in 3 American workers were in a union, we had the largest middle class and the lowest income inequality. That's why in the long term, growing the union movement is key to solving America's affordability crisis. But, and here's the hard part, what do we do now? We got to win elections, and here's why. As I said, 46% of householders, 55% of households of color did not earn enough to make ends meet in 2024. And inflation has soared since then. That means there's not enough to put food on the table, gas in the tank, and still cover rent. It means constant stress and struggle. Our members see it every day in the people we teach, heal, and protect. And our members feel it. This winter, we surveyed AFT members about the financial issues that keep them up at night. 7,500 responded. Nearly 3/4 reported living paycheck to paycheck, and more than 1/3 said they were unable to cover all their monthly bills. There are few things worse than the fear of not being able to provide for your family. And reading our members' responses took me back to my teenage years when my father was laid off. I remember my parents whispering about which bills they had to pay now and which they would hold off until my father found work. And they tried to protect my sister and me from knowing, but there's no hiding anxiety that deep. Millions of Americans believe Donald Trump's promises to end inflation and make America affordable again on day one. Well, by my count, and you know, I'm better at social studies than I am at math, but by my count, it's day 552 since he took office. Is anybody paying under $2 a gallon for gas like he promised? And by the way, what happened to those Doge dividend checks? Or did anybody get a tariff rebate check? And after they got rid of the Obamacare tax credits, have they fixed health care? Donald Trump isn't worried about being able to afford health care, housing, or anything else. Since returning to the White House, he's raked in more than $2.2 billion through what government watchdogs call unprecedented corruption and self-dealing. The president has called the affordability crisis bullshit. And he has said, and you've all heard it, I don't think about Americans' financial situation. Maybe not, but he's made it worse. Trump's tariffs sent the strong economy he inherited into a slump, even with an AI bubble. His trade wars are costing American families about $1,000 every year. He started a costly war against Iran that has left us worse off than when it started. And by the way, we as a union have taken positions over and over again against this war in Iran. Trump said taxpayers wouldn't pay one dime for his ballroom, but it turns out we're on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, we'll see what the president says tonight, but we're not holding our breath that he will deliver on his promises to lower costs. But we're not waiting. We're fighting for economic security and to put money in our members' pockets, like the 1 million borrowers we helped get public service loan forgiveness. Our fight for affordability builds on that work with resources to help navigate medical and credit card debt and other support people are legally entitled to but may not know about. And we're working with allies in Congress on bold solutions, like increasing the minimum wage to $25 and passing the Working Families Tax Cut, which would exempt 104 million lower-income adults from federal taxes paid for by millionaires paying a fairer share. We're pushing for increased funding for public schools and colleges. We're fighting back against the draconian cuts to Medicaid and to rural hospitals. Millions of children risk going hungry because of the heartless changes to SNAP. We're fighting for every single one of them. But we need majorities in state houses and in Congress this year, and ultimately the White House, to secure the foundational changes we seek. You heard Hakeem Jeffries before. We need to have a working families majority in the House of Representatives to get that agenda passed. We face another grave danger, dire threats to democracy. And I know some of you are thinking, here she goes. But really, when is the erosion so much that we can't get our freedoms back? I remember the scoffing when terms like authoritarian were first used. And I've been asked repeatedly about why I used the term fascist in the book I wrote, Why Fascists Fear Teachers. Unfortunately, the answer is clearer every day. I actually don't care what you call it, but I care very much about what President Trump is doing. He's weaponizing the justice system to target political opponents, journalists, and dissenters. He's sending armed forces trained for war to police American cities, especially to Democratic and Black-led cities. He's using the presidency for his own benefit and to enrich himself and his family. He's trying to obstruct free and fair elections to maintain power. Donald Trump keeps trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. He urged on the January 6 rioters and pardoned even those who brutally attacked officers bravely protecting the Capitol. He's brazenly testing the legal and constitutional limits of presidential power. And then there are the lies. It started with crowd size, but now he lies about everything, about election results, the economy, his critics, the war in Iran, even the botched paint job on the reflecting pool. And sadly, instead of uniting the country to celebrate the great American experiment of democracy, what did the president do for the 250th? He held what he described as the most spectacular Trump rally of them all. Mr. President, you don't own July 4th. You own January 6th. I often joke about being a social studies teacher, but I speak and write about democracy a lot because education is vital to understanding and understanding is vital to acting. If we don't heed the warnings from the generals who worked for Donald Trump in his first term, if we don't recognize the hallmarks of authoritarianism, fear, division, isolation, and apathy, if we don't learn the lessons of tyrants, how do we, the people, have the shared understanding and urgency to organize and mobilize for democracy to work for working people? As I wrote last year, Fascists fear teachers because they fear a well-educated citizenry. They fear what educators do, the teaching of critical thinking, of honest history, of pluralism, because their brand of greed, power, and privilege cannot survive in a democracy of diverse, educated citizens. We see it in the book bans, in the attacks on DEI, in the efforts to control what schools and universities can and cannot teach, and the attempts to rewrite and whitewash history. But to be clear, fascists don't just fear teachers. They fear, loathe, and try to silence all of us who stand up for democracy, dignity, fairness, and opportunity for all. And stand up we must. Americans are losing faith in democracy. 7 in 10 U.S. adults say they are dissatisfied with the way democracy is working in the country. Young Americans in particular fear the country is on the wrong track. I understand the disappointment, but we cannot give up on democracy. Winston Churchill was right when he said in 1947 that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried. But we must improve it. As John Dewey said, democracy has to be born anew every generation, and education is its midwife. And look, you heard our international colleagues before, but look where democracy is being born anew. In Hungary, where this spring 80% of voters turned out to reject Viktor Orbán's far-right agenda, ending his 16-year grip on power. And then in South Korea, where labor unions spearheaded mass protests and nationwide strikes to defend democracy after that president declared martial law. And here at home, at No Kings and May Day protests in small towns and suburbs and cities across America, where millions of people turned out to say, we will not stand by while democracy is dismantled. We are not helpless to change what is wrong. We can build a better future and a stronger democracy, but it requires winning in November. And as bad and big-hearted as we are, neither bargaining nor bullhorns alone will get us out of these treacherous times. To get a working-class tax cut, to pass living wage legislation, to get limitless money out of politics, to fix the healthcare system, to strengthen education, to restore vital safety net and climate programs. We have to win majorities in 2026 and the White House in 2028. But we have to elect people who support working people and leaders with real plans to make life better. Strengthening public schools and stopping the reckless runaway train that private school vouchers are becoming, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. Ensuring everyone who works for a living wage, that shouldn't be a political issue. Fighting so everyone has high-quality, affordable health care should be a human priority, not one party's priority. Shoring up Social Security to keep seniors out of destitution should have universal support. Addressing the climate crisis that threatens all humanity should unify all humanity. And perhaps one day, these issues will be bipartisan. But sadly, the reality is that since Trump's first term, federal Republican office holders support our priority issues about 8% of the time, while Democratic federal office holders support our priority issues about 95% of the time. didn't used to be that way. And do I wish it was different? Of course. And do I wish Democrats were bolder? I do. But Republican leaders don't even seem to want to try. This election will decide whether we are a country governed by the people or ruled by the powerful. A country of opportunity or oligarchy. A country whose people live in freedom or in fear. So I have a few questions for you. Do we want a future where billionaires and a trillionaire continue to grow their wealth at the expense of working people? Or one where working people can earn a decent wage, can support their family, and take a vacation every once in a while? Do we want a future in which classrooms lack resources and life-changing research is abandoned, or one in which we can nurture the potential of every student and we continue to lead the world in bold discoveries? Do we want a future where big healthcare corporations put profits over people, or one in which every person has access to healthcare and healthcare professionals have the resources, the staffing, and the power to help their patients? Do we want a future ruled by tech bros and robots, or a future grounded in dignity and humanity? Do we want a future in which elections are rigged to maintain one-party control and government is for sale to the highest bidder, or one in which every person's vote matters and government serves the people? My colleagues, my siblings, that is what is at stake in November 2026. We can win majorities in the House and in the Senate and state capitals, majorities who will act on our priorities. And it's within reach, but only if we vote, get others out to vote, and protect the vote. And that's why we are committing to our most ambitious election program ever. Here's the math. 1.3 million AFT members and their families live in a place where there's a competitive race in November. 600,000 of us are in battleground gubernatorial states. 464,000 live in states with the 7 top U.S. Senate battleground races, and we need to flip 4 seats to win a Senate majority that works for working folks. And we have more than 1,000 members and voting family members in the 86 competitive congressional districts in this country this year. We only need a net gain of 3 seats to win a working folks majority in the U.S. House. 3 seats. So I'm asking you, can we do it? And this is why I'm so glad Liz is with us today, with the AFL-CIO, we have a goal of reaching 2 million new voters. That means the AFT has to turn out about 200,000 more householders than in the last election. That means we need 28,000 volunteers to make calls, knock on doors, and get out the vote. With all of us, in all of our locals, that's literally 1% to 2% of our members and locals. 28,000 out of 1.88 million. Can we do it? And it's not just about getting out the vote in this election, but protecting the vote. And that's why we are launching a new Democracy's Defender Election Protection Program. And we are recruiting 5,000 members to make sure that people can exercise their right to vote free from intimidation. And our Democracy Defenders program will be part of the 50,000 people the AFL is recruiting for this critical work. Can we do it? Okay, I know it's late, but can we do it? People power can win, but we need to be all in, and that means we need all of you to be all in. None of us can do everything, but each of us can do something to win in November and achieve the better future we fight for. So are we going to vote? Are we going to get out the vote? Are we going to protect the vote? Okay, that's the energy we need to achieve the America we dream of. An America where everyone has opportunity and economic security. An America where everyone's dignity and freedoms are respected. An America whose democracy not only endures, but finally lives up to its noble ideas and ideals. I've spoken often this year about MLK's final book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And since January 2025, we've experienced a lot of chaos, fear, and division, but you have held so many communities together. Lately, I find myself drawn to another piece of King's wisdom, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I still believe that, and I hope you do too. But the arc doesn't bend on its own. It bends towards freedom and opportunity through the work you do every day, making a difference in people's lives, in classrooms, at the bedside, in communities. You bend the arc. Unions bend the arc. Voting bends the arc. The power of the people bends the arc toward justice. On this, our 250th anniversary of this nation, that is our responsibility, AFT. That is what I am asking you to do. That is what I am asking us to do. This bigger, badder, big-hearted union and our 1.88 million members. And when we do, when we bend that arc, we will change the trajectory of this nation and secure a better future for all, from sea to shining sea. Thank you so much, AFT.